What's up, guys? Farooqi Bros here, back with another podcast. And today, for you guys, we'll be talking about some of the latest films we've seen so far, as well as another major series that is hitting the fantasy genre. So let's get right into it. I want to start with The Rings of Power. It's like the much talked about, most expensive TV show ever made. Well, really, the streaming show from Amazon Prime. This was Jeff Bezos' passion project. He wanted to create a show that's on level with Game of Thrones and with no expenses spared. And we got basically the Rings of Power. And we talked about the first season that came out a couple of years ago now, and we talked about while the show looks beautiful, and the production quality is just through the roof and how good it looks. One thing that was always, kind of like the underside of that is just it feels a little bit more boring than it should. And that was always one of my major takes from the review. And I actually looked up what I gave the first season, and I gave it a 3.5 when we came all said and done with it. And it's funny, coming into the next three episodes that kind of take this topic solo for season 2. One of the things that was on my mind was that how can you make this show interesting, and especially when you compare it to a show like House of Dragons. So when you look at House of Dragons and Lord of the Rings, there's one thing that's like similar between both of them. They're both prequels to a story we know very well. So we know what's going to happen to Galadriel. We know what's going to happen to Sauron. We know the end fates of all these characters. So for the writing team, and House of Dragons is the exact same thing. You know what's going to happen in Game of Thrones. So how do you make these characters interesting when you know where it's all going? And this is where I feel like the writing of House of Dragons, for some reason, tends to be higher quality than the writing of Lord of the Rings, is because in Lord of the Rings, while we know, okay, Galadriel, we know she's going to get a little influenced, by the rings she has, plus, Sauron's arc, we know where it's all going. But for some reason, it feels like these characters are almost running on a treadmill. They're just running in place. And you don't really feel like you're getting there. It's almost like we just stretch this story for so many seasons that these characters aren't moving enough for me. Whereas House of Dragons, we also know the fates of all the characters, but you feel a sense of drama in the tragicness of it falling, almost like the Anakin Skywalker thing, where it's going to go bad, but seeing it go bad and seeing the characters make the mistakes are interesting. Where in Lord of the Rings, it's almost like they're scared to take the big risks, scared to take those big narrative plunges that can really elevate a show. So when I look back at Rings of Power, I only saw the first 3 episodes so far, and the season just started, so there's a lot of room to get better. But one of the things that I was thinking about is that this show needs to be just a little more juicier, because for me, of the few storylines, it's clear the best storyline for me is anything to do with, Sauron, who is taking the form of Anatar this season. He was Halbrand the first season, and his creation with his creation for the ring, alongside Celebrimbor and the whole drama of creating the rings. That's the bread and butter of the show, man. When the show's doing that, it's really good. Alternatively, I do like Galadriel's storyline. I do like everything she's going through with the elves. It's just everything else, when it comes to the Harfoots, the original hobbits, or even the dwarves, like their storylines are just not speaking to me the same way for whatever reason. So I'm hoping that it can kind of pick up. Season 1 was 2022, end of 2022. But I'm hoping that things pick up with this season. I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan. Literally my favorite films of all time is Lord of the Rings. So I really want this show to feel like it is, standing side by side. And Hobbit, I don't know how you guys in the chat from the Farooqi Bros or what the comments think, but the Hobbit to me is kind of like always one step under from what the Lord of the Rings are from a film perspective. And what I don't want is for us to finish Rings of Power in a few years and be like, yeah, that's even under the Hobbit. And that's kind of the hierarchy. I want Rings of Power to be this like juggernaut prestige TV show that's, winning Emmys. It just doesn't feel like it's happening in the first 2 seasons, let's be honest. So that's kind of where I'm thinking about Lord of the Rings. And hopefully it picks up and things work out. But that's kind of where I'm standing on it. And, the Ansmir, as the weeks go on, we'll do more like a round table format where we talk about the show more in detail. But for now, that's kind of where I'm standing on Rings of Power. So this is a quick podcast. We're kind of speed running through a couple of topics, but let's go to our next film, and that is Sing Sing. Talked a lot about. this last year. It's been doing well from the word of mouth and from critics. People have been talking highly about this movie. And Samir, you got a chance to see it recently. I have not, so when I get a chance, I will be talking about it. I'm quite excited to, but for whatever reason, in our New York City area, we're not getting that many screenings for it yet. But Samir, you got a chance to see it. Tell me what you thought about Sing Sing.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to seeing this since TIFF, since I missed it last year. And now that I have, I kind of wished I did, since it would have been one of the better ones that I would have seen. It's about a group of men, in maximum security prison, and how they put on the theater performance. And it's starring Coleman Domingo, who is incredible in it. I think he's definitely going to get an Oscar nomination for this one. And the other actors, I mean, most of the actors, almost all of them, uh, are the real life prisoners from the facility, since it's based on a true story, and they all give really great performances. It's really sincere and really full of a lot of heart, which I think a lot of people will like. Um, and at the end, they show like some footage. I don't want to spoil it. I don't want to spoil too much, but it's really good. I think I gave it a 4.5. It will definitely be in my top 10 by the end of the year, I think, and it'll definitely be prevalent for like award seasons. So I would definitely recommend it. You muted.
I'll say that main crux of the story, the fact that it's a ensemble of formerly incarcerated, men who are now actors, and putting their performance into this, and this whole concept of, creating this theater group and working together and kind of following through. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm quite excited to kind of see that film. And I do think that's going to be one of those movies that we talk about a lot this year. And I was going to ask you, Samir, as a follow up question, that what do you think about the Oscar chances? You think you said he might be, you think he's going to get a nomination for Best Actor, but do you think the film will be in the best film category?
I mean, a lot of films get like the Best Picture nomination. I think this one is definitely, it's almost like made for it, which I feel kind of bad saying. It's kind of made for the Oscars, made for the awards. But I think it'll definitely be prevalent, and I hope to see like at least one of the supporting actors also nominated. I mean, the main supporting actor, whose name I can't remember right now, he's really incredible. He's a stand-up performance to it. The film is really great overall. I mean, it's about the way that art, even in a broken system, that art can be like this liberation, this escapism. So I think it'll definitely be. It should be, in the award season.
Yeah, I think we're all excited for it. Let's see how that goes. So from Sing Sing, let's move forward to Strange Darling. And Zion, I want you to be taking this topic. I mean, what did you think about this one?
So this is a movie that's kind of flying under the radar in general, but it is rated very high on Rotten Tomatoes, and that's what kind of piqued my interest. Aside from seeing the trailer once or twice, but in theaters, but I ended up just taking the chance, going to see it, and it was surprisingly um, a very entertaining movie. I think, as far as like those kind of like serial killer, not serial killer, but like yeah, a killer on the loose type movies. Um, this was very unique. It was non-linear, so think like Pulp Fiction, where it jumps back and forth. But though Pulp Fiction is obviously very unique in the way it's done, this helped the audience a little more by having chapters. So it'll tell you, okay, chapter 2, then the title of it, and then jump to like chapter 4, and then jump to chapter 1. So it did help guide the audience in that way. But um, the story was very interesting. The twists were fun. I think the way they did everything was just very enjoyable. I never felt bored throughout the movie. I was engaged to each part of it, and as every like kind of chapter jumped back and forth, you learn something new, and then things start adding up, and then obviously the twist as it comes, and then how the rest of the movie unfolds. Um, it was just a unique experience for this type of film. Usually the scene is very linear. They follow the same general type of track record, but this one kind of did its own thing, and that's what helped it stand out and make it unique from similar films of its type. And so I really did particularly enjoy this one. I ended up with a score of 4 out of 5. Though it was great, it wasn't obviously perfect. There were some things where I know they could have improved a little bit. Um, but I think it was just unique. It did a good job. The acting was all, it was good. I mean, it wasn't anything standoutish, but all the main cast did a good job, and I think it was just interesting to see how the plot and story kind of unfolded, and then how everything ended at the end. But overall, it was an enjoyable killer on the loose / serial killer type film. And if that's your vibe, I think definitely check this one out because it is unique in the way it kind of does its thing, and it's just a fun movie.
Well, since you're on what score did you give it? 3.5, you said?
I give it 4.5.
4.5. Oh, pretty good.
Four. Sorry, I give it 4 out of 5.
4
yeah,
5.
4 out of 5. Yeah.
Good. Well, check it out if that's your vibe. Well, since you're on a roll, might as well keep it going. Let's talk about Blink Twice. You got a chance to see that as well, right?
Got to see Blink Twice as well, and this, of course, is Zoe Kravitz's directorial debut. And I think for first film, it was a strong film. It wasn't perfect, but you can see that she's kind of growing in her stylistic language, her visual language for the type of movies I feel like she's gonna go with. It was an interesting story of, like, I'm sure people see the trailers of this billionaire guy, kind of generic in that sense. Oh, he's a tech billionaire, and it's kind of mysterious, and he has the island. And then at a gala, he sees these two girls who are like kind of middle class, or I mean borderline poverty level, who end up just sneaking in. They're like waiters, but they sneak in and try to become like, oh, we're one of the guests. And he picks them out and says, okay, let's go to the island. And they end up start forgetting things that happened to them. So that's kind of like the crux of the plot. It was a very interesting film. I think it starts off a little slow, but once kind of like the more, not deeper, but like serious angle of the movie kicks in, where, okay, you know something wrong is happening, I think that's when it kind of takes off and becomes much more of an engaging film. And it is not, I guess, for the faint of heart. It does kind of tread into things that are very serious topics in terms of what ends up happening to these characters and some of the traumatic events that they go through, and of like the abuse and other things like that, where that can obviously, they even give a disclaimer in the beginning of the movie, and I think that was well placed because it can be kind of triggering if that's something that affected you. So it was a serious film in that sense, but there was a lot of comedic notes as well. So there was a balance created that Zoe Kravitz, I think, did a good job in kind of not overloading you with, all right, this is kind of a heavy material, but it's also angled with, okay, there's some like jokes and some this, that. So I appreciate that balance in there. I like the way things turned out. I think the end was kind of the strongest in my opinion, like the final act of the film, and a very interesting resolution where like that final scene, it took it in a unique place where I'm not sure if I think liked it. It was kind of out there, but I appreciate it for what it was trying to do. I guess it was more kind of fictional in that sense, but I think overall as a film, it was decent. I think she had a strong message in the movie, and she did for her first film, it is well coming out of the gate. So I'm excited to see kind of where she'll go from here on out with her career as a director. But for the first movie, this was solid, and I am borderline between 3.5 and 4. I feel like I'll end up at 3.5 really, but it was like a decent movie. So if you like have time, if you're free to see it, definitely want to check it out, just to see how her as a director kind of is putting her vision out there, just get a sense of how she'll maybe be going forward. But 3.5 is what it's held with.
Yeah, so check it out if that's interesting. I mean, before we move on to our last topic, which is our what to watch, I didn't want to talk about a quick quick event that the Farooqi Bros and FRQ got to go to. So on behalf of Immersive Gamebox, which is like an immersive room, augmented reality, touchscreen, very like, cutting edge in that kind of VR space. We got a chance to do an escape room, but kind of like a virtual escape room. So this was from both. Let me change that banner. Yeah. So from they invited, basically it's a crossover event between Cinema Debate. So me and Zion represented from there, and then the sister brand, which is FRQ, which is our gaming division. If you guys haven't known, you can follow FRQ on YouTube and TikTok. So basically the whole Farooqi brand kind of got together for a quick event. I mean, we did okay, I would say. I mean, that C- looks bad, I'll be honest, but these games are a little harder than you think. And We actually got a prize saying we were the best that they had the entire week. So that was pretty good. Like out of the 50 or so groups who did it, we were number one. So take that as you will. But still, that C- pissing me off. But if it's a cool escape room. Basically, the idea of Escape AI, which is the specific one we were taking part in. It's basically about solving mysteries, outsmarting an AI, escaping. Things are on time limits, a lot of little puzzles that require all of the group to kind of work together. And I can probably talk over, if it even allows me to talk over, a quick clip. So if you can see over here, this is our group with FRQ, and basically the room you're in, every single element is touchscreen. You're kind of, the hats you're wearing on your head kind of bring you from one place to the other with sensors on the top. So it's just like a fun little game, like nothing different than an arcade / escape room crossover. So I definitely think that if you're into like these kind of games, these kind of like Dave and Buster's with a little bit more of an elevated feel, you might like something like this. And if you're into escape rooms, you might be interested in taking on an escape room like this, where you're really interacting with the screen, interacting with things, working together as a group, doing things, camaraderie, good for like team bonding, good for work, excursions, these kind of things is good for. So check it out. We did the one in New York. There's a couple throughout, the country, and definitely check it out if you want. Zion, what did you think about this Escape AI room that we did?
Yeah, it's definitely a fun group activity. I think it is more difficult than you'd think when you're actually in there, and the puzzles are kind of actually get difficult. But I think that adds to the fun of it, because you really do have to work together as a group, try to figure it out, and that determines your score. And that leaderboard aspect also adds to the fun, because that okay, afterwards you can see where you ranked among the other players or the other people that week who have also tried that specific game. And we tried two of them, like Sharad said, one was like an alien incursion thing, which is more of like a physical challenge, and then the other one was Escape AI, which is their brand new experience. And I think that one was more of like, you actually had to put in thought. It was like a virtual escape room where, like Sharad said, you can touch the screens to move around a large space. So like we were in this house that in the story of the game had burned down, the owner disappeared, so we had to solve the mystery of what happened to him. So it puts you in this room that you're in, virtually you're in the house. So you can touch to like go to the kitchen or touch another side to move to the bedroom. And then the screens around you change, and you can interact with different stuff. So it was a very fun and interesting and unique concept that usually you see maybe in a physical escape room, but this kind of gave you freedom to also do this kind of puzzles. And with the hats that track your movement, you felt more like, okay, you were actually in there, and things you did, places you moved in, made a difference in the game. I thought that was very interesting as an experience. So definitely something to check out, and as a group, of course, and see like, okay, is this your vibe, or you're more of like the physical escape room person. But as a new experience, is definitely something I would say that something to just test out and gauge your enjoyment level on that.
Yeah, it's a good party game. So I really appreciate the folks at Immersive Gamebox for inviting the Farooqi Bros and the wider FRQ team to go check it out. So definitely you guys check it out as well if you're into this kind of arcade stuff. And I think we really enjoyed it. It's a good experience. So, let's just move on to our final topic, which is, the what to watch, or recommendations for what you guys can watch. As you know, the rules for this topic is you don't have to be film. You can go outside of film if you want. If you want to go to television, you want to go to gaming, you want to go just anything, feel free to go for it. So who wants to go first? I'm not lagging, am I? I feel like I'm lagging out, but okay.
You're fine generally, yeah.
All right. So Zion, maybe you want to go first.
I guess, let me think. Oh yeah, I guess the thing I would recommend is a series I finally got to catch up on. I've always heard it's a great series, but finally got around to it, and that's Mindhunter, which is on Netflix, and it's a David Fincher project. I didn't have much expectations going in, but I ended up enjoying it a tremendous amount. It is a very talking show, if that's not your thing. Like the title suggests, Mindhunter, it has to do with the psychological breakdown aspects of serial killers, and it takes place in like the early 70s to like the mid 70s. Jonathan Groff is the main character, on the left side, and a Torv in the middle. And I forgot his name, but all of them did a great job, especially the two main leads, like the partners, which was Holden Ford and Agent Bill Tench. And you just follow them. They interview different serial killers like Charles Manson and other people, where obviously fictionalized, but it was just an interesting, unique story where they follow and kind of build this psychological profile of what makes a serial killer, and then use that preliminarily to try to solve a string of murders that's happening in the story, obviously, of these Atlanta murders, based on a real life murderer, of like the Atlanta murderer, who like took children and all these crazy things. But I think the way they handled it, and both the psychological aspect of it, the science behind it, it was very terrifically written show. I think the dialogue was great. The plot threads were fun. They were interesting. I really enjoyed it a lot. And I think the unfortunate thing was that it got canceled at season 2 because the viewership was not there to match the immense budget that was put into the show. I feel like now, in the era we're in now, I think that was like 2019 or something earlier. So now in the post-streaming world where crazy inflated budgets, you see the Rings of Power and things like that, I think if enough people make noise, Dave Fincher himself said he's not opposed to coming back if like the budget is there, because Netflix was like, listen, we're not giving you the budget you want. But I feel like now, with the type of budget that goes into streaming, especially garbage shows, like you see things that not Netflix, but like Disney Plus is putting out, these days, where the inflated shows that nobody watches and they keep pumping out. This show is top tier. I think if enough noise is made, maybe it'll catch the eye of Netflix. But as a rating, I would give it a 4.5 out of 5. I really enjoyed it a lot. I think it was a great show, and it's unfortunate that it got canceled, especially where it left off. It left off in a lot of hanging plot threads, so not likely it'll come back, but, we'll see.
Yeah, I know my wife Fatma is obsessed with Mindhunter as well. I think a lot of people love it. It's a huge cult following, and a lot of people are trying to bring it back in one way, shape, or form. So let's see. Maybe there's one more season left in it, that can come out. But let's see how it works. Samir, I'm jumping to you next. What is your recommendation for the audience?
I think I'll recommend Danny Boyle's Sunshine, 2007. It's about a group of astronauts that have to revive the sun, which is dying. And it's like a pretty stacked cast: Cillian Murphy, Chris Evans, Michelle Yeoh. I think it was pretty good for the first 2 acts. It's a really good sci-fi thriller. At the end, it gets a little horror-ish, but I would definitely recommend it. It's really good.
Well, there you go. What score did you give it?
I give it a 4 because of the third act. I was gonna give it a 4.5 originally, but I feel like you really got to experience the third act. I feel like it'd be a really divisive third act, the way it becomes sort of a whole different genre from the first 2 acts. It works on some level, but not for me that much. I think you really just have to watch it to see.
Yeah. Well, for me, I'm going to be going to, as Alien just came out, Romulus few weeks ago, and that kind of led me to kind of watch the original Alien, and then jump to Prometheus and Covenant. And then I was like, you know what, let me just rewatch, a classic, Ridley Scott movie. And I'm like, you know what, let me watch Kingdom of Heaven, because, I always was a Kingdom of Heaven fan when I was younger. And I watched the director's cut again, and I was like, yo, this movie is kind of peak, not gonna lie. So, it's about the Crusades, and it's like this really grand movie where I feel like Scott was trying his best to kind of almost do like the Lord of the Rings style epic. It's like everything you would want in a Napoleon movie, but you really got it here. And it's just a great film that does justice, I think, to all sides of the Crusade argument. I think in an era where Muslims are really badly portrayed on screen, Kingdom of Heaven is one of those rare films where the actors they got to play characters, and especially the Muslim characters, and kind of getting, not everything's perfect, but the stuff they try to do, you could tell that they're trying their best to kind of make it somewhat accurate, but also not make it as a clear good guy or bad guy. Everyone, like overall, it tells a story from the point of view of the Christians and the Templars, but you can tell there's like this kind of 3-dimensional scale here. And man, some of the dialogue and the acting is so good, and a very stacked cast. I mean, Orlando Bloom plays the main guy, but then you also have Liam Neeson, you got Edward Norton, you got Jeremy Irons, you got a bunch of people. I can't even remember them, but also want to give shout out to the Arab actors like Ghassan Masood, who played Salahuddin. He did just an amazing performance as the guy. So just, I think if it's a long movie, and I mean you're treading that 3.5 hour range, but if you want to just sit there and kind of sink your teeth into what I consider like one of Ridley Scott's most strongest films, I would watch Kingdom of Heaven. Yeah, the Rotten Tomato score isn't great. Yeah, you're gonna see people say that's on the lower end, but a lot of people are judging the theatrical cut, which Ridley Scott in interviews has denounced on the level that which, let's say, our audience used to, like Zack Snyder denouncing Jail Justice League. It's like that level of denouncement where like he said, I want nothing to do with it. Like, don't even show it to me. So it's not like, oh, Napoleon, where there's a 3-hour cut, where it might be a little more. Kingdom of Heaven director's cut is literally a different movie than Kingdom of Heaven, the theatrical cut. So I would recommend you guys see that director's cut. Really good, really strong, epic, huge scale, huge budget. It's good. So that's my recommendation. And I give a movie a 5 out of 5. So that's high praise coming from me. I only have very few 5s actually. So yeah. In the comments, we have I rewatched the Tron movies again. I also love the actor who played Manson in Mindhunter. Also played him for Tarantino in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Yeah. Tron, what's the new Tron movie coming out? It's like the one with Jared Leto.
It's like Tron Ares or something, right?
Ares. Samir, you're a Tron guy, aren't you?
He's not a Tron guy, but he's a Jared Leto guy.
I thought Zion was a Tron guy.
Tron, I'll be honest. My main relation to Tron is from Kingdom Hearts, so like I don't have that much Tron experience. But it looked interesting. A lot of people really like that second movie. What is it called? The second one, the one with like the reboot.
I don't know. Resurrection or something. Tron something. I don't
Maybe,
know.
yeah.
Stupid.
It
was all right.
Yeah, good. We'll see what this new movie is. But yeah, what did you guys think about the Lord of the Rings: Rings of Power? If you've seen the first few episodes, we definitely recommend it. It's Tron Legacy. There you go. Yeah. A lot. There's a cult following on Tron Legacy. We'll love it.
Tron Legacy.
Don't you? Zion, the Tron Legacy? Zion, do you like Tron
I guess
Legacy?
we'll never know.
I never even watched Tron Legacy.
Oh,
How's it possible?
I thought you were asking Samir.
I saw the Kingdom Hearts rendition of Tron Legacy in Dream Drop Distance.
Listen, if I'm basing it off Kingdom Hearts, you don't want to know my answer.
Yeah, Kingdom Hearts did a bad job with it, I'll be honest. Didn't see it through. But yeah, what did you think about Rings of Power? If you got a chance to see it, definitely check out our recommendations, which is Sing Sing. Definitely going to be a big Oscar contender as we predicted. And then your general movies of the month, nothing that's going to break any big records or on critically or money-wise. But if you want to see Strange Darling, blink twice, take a look. And then our recommendations for the week are, for me, Kingdom of Heaven, for Zion, Manhunter, and for Samir, something. Sunshine. What's it called?
Danny Boyle, Sunshine.
Yeah, Sunshine. There you go. So check it out. From myself, from Zayan, and from Samir, we're the Farooqi Bros. And we'll see you next time. Peace out.